Hello, I'm Scott Burns, Chairman and owner of BURNCO Rock Products Limited. BURNCO is a proudly independent company owned and operated as a family business for over 100 years. We are proposing a sand and gravel project on the west side of McNab Creek on property we own in the Howe Sound area of British Columbia. We hope that by explaining the unique design and operational nature of this project, we can address any concerns you may have. Let's start by describing the much-needed, non-renewable resource located in the area.
Aggregate is sand, rocks, gravel, crushed stone, and shale. Basically, any rock product that is mined from the ground. Aggregate is used to construct the foundation of your home, your driveway, sidewalks, and patio. You drive, bike, or walk to and from work on thousands of tons of aggregate every day. It's used to construct our hospitals, schools, roadways, and bridges. Once land is developed, access to the aggregate that lies below is lost forever. If aggregate can't be mined locally to meet the public's need, then it has to be brought in from farther away, ultimately raising the end cost to the consumer and increasing the environmental footprint.
Through the Howe Sound project, BURNCO will supply a much-needed product to the local economy in an environmentally responsible manner. The sand and gravel we will mine in this project will stay local to BC.
I started on the project late 2008. We've been moving through the environmental baseline monitoring and the environmental assessment planning. Hundreds, if not literally thousands and tens and thousands of hours have gone into this so far.
BURNCO will excavate a 30-hectare area using an electric-powered floating clamshell dredge.
We're going to power everything that we can with electric motors versus diesel ones. We want to take advantage of the fact that there's power to the site already through an existing hydro line.
As the sand and gravel is extracted, the area fills with surface water and groundwater.
Our ultimate goal is to create a freshwater lake next to the marine environment.
Many people have this perception that this is a very pristine site, and it is a natural site, but it certainly has more than 100 years of history of rigorous industrial activity.
BURNCO has partnered with Golder Associates, an independent environmental consulting company.
This morning I had in this room 3 PhDs that are working on independent components of this project. And the intent is not only are we getting our work peer-reviewed, we're also intending, with BURNCO's permission, to scientifically publish this so that it's represented as a study that can be examined and criticized if need be. Well, I've been in this work for over 30 years as a scientist, as an academic, and as a consultant. And I've rarely, if ever, seen this extent of studies done on a single site for environmental assessment.
McNab Creek is important because it's the second and the largest of the fish-bearing streams here on site. Salmon spawn here, and they use the creek regularly, and so it's important that they have good passage. The fisheries have been a real focal point for the project, and it's something that has gone back even further than the 2 years of background monitoring we've done. We've been gathering data from StatsCan and DFO for the past 70 years.
An estuary is a place where the freshwater and the marine saline environment mix. There's some seasonal use by different fish species, but it does not appear to be critical habitat because it's so very dynamic. It changes to completely saltwater from freshwater.
What we're looking at here is a piece of compensation work that was built about 8 years ago, and it's essentially a salmon spawning channel that runs up through the middle of the property.
The salmon channel was constructed by the previous owner of the property.
But what we found is that it's degrading over time and that it's not sustainable.
We've seen the channel in the last 2 years not have a single adult fish in it. so no salmon have been coming back to spawn in there. We had a groundwater model done on this area, and what the channel has caused is the loss of groundwater in the entire surrounding area. The surface water hydrotechnical engineer that works with me has described it acting like a wick. So it draws the water to its channel, and the channel then draws it out to the sea.
It's right in the middle of where we'd like to start mining.
BURNCO has found a way to move the salmon channel, compensate for it, and create spawning opportunities.
With the approach that we're taking for the mine plan, those foreshore areas and those inlet streams that we see to some extent seasonally now will be better established into the future with an established pit or some process to repair the damage to the groundwater area.
BURNCO is working closely with regulators to develop the right mining plan that will increase the productivity of marine habitat and ensure there is no loss of the resources we all depend on.
The plan for the project and the excavation and the mining and the reclamation as a whole is to leave the site in better condition than what we found it. I mean, that's the bottom line.
BURNCO respects the biodiversity and unique qualities of the area. Experts in their field have performed extensive studies on elk, birds, and rare plant and animal species.
One of our vegetation studies showed that back in the forest there's a couple of rarer species that we will have to be concerned about and potentially move them or address where they live and how they're established.
The careful design of the project ensures that the operation will be hidden behind a large tree buffer. This will go a long way to mitigate noise. The tree buffer will also help to block light emissions.
The mining method at the face, it's an underwater face, so you won't be able to see it, and the material will come up wet, which also helps with dust control.
To further minimize dust and noise, BURNCO has developed effective proprietary solutions to enclose the machinery that processes aggregate, making BURNCO a leader in mitigating both dust and noise in sand and gravel operations. This was once a BURNCO gravel operation in Calgary, Alberta, and is now one of the city's best parks for nature lovers. These ponds attract several varieties of bird life. In BC, several well-known sites were formerly sand and gravel pits and quarries, such as Lafarge Lake in Coquitlam, Albert Dick Lake in Abbotsford, Queen Elizabeth Gardens in Vancouver, and Bouchart Gardens in Victoria. It is our intention in the McNab Creek area to continue to manage the private forest and ultimately to reclaim the area that will be mined into a freshwater recreational lake.
McNab's a popular recreational destination. There's recreational properties, there's homes, there's yacht clubs, there's hunting and fishing going on in the area. So it's important to a lot of different people, and we need to understand that importance. Directly on site, we're looking at about 12 full-time jobs. Hiring all of those people locally within the Sunshine Coast. I think there's a willing and able workforce there that's ready to go with the same skill set.
I live in Gibsons and have a water taxi service. It's been a wonderful source of employment for me. Been lucky that we've had opportunity to see some new development coming to the area and maybe employment for people.
BC's expansive waterways have long been used to transport goods and support the many communities that stretch along the coastline. Barging is a way of life here on the West Coast. The Howe Sound Aggregate project is proposing to use marine transportation to bring aggregates closer to their end users.
People don't want to see an increase in truck traffic and road-related traffic as a result of the project. And so moving material by barge is both cost-effective and really efficient.
We heard from a number of residents across the Howe Sound, the Sea to Sky corridor area about not blocking their views. So we did a fairly careful set of studies where we looked at the commercial vessel traffic use, and from that we revised what we've talked about as a barging route, both going around the upper portion to the western side of Gambier or potentially depending on weather, to the eastern side of Gambier.
The volume of gravel BURNCO expects to mine in this project would require 1 barge load every other day. That 1 barge load of gravel is equivalent to 416 dump trucks that will not create traffic on the roads in order to bring this material to market. Marine transportation, coupled with the proximity of the aggregate source to the marketplace, means a smaller environmental footprint and greater efficiency than existing supply sources.
For BURNCO, good community relations includes our corporate support of the local community. Our business has been built on openness and honesty since the very start. After all, you don't build a business that has lasted 4 generations without doing something right. We are a Canadian company who is committed to BC, and we want to prove to you that we are as good as our word.
One example is BURNCO's participation in the Great Canadian Shoreline Cleanup, one of the largest environmental events in Canada. Awareness and support for the program grows each year, dramatically increasing our impact as the public starts to better understand how shoreline litter adversely affects both aquatic life and people.
BURNCO has been on the industry forefront of environmental stewardship since before there were regulations and standards. We set a high standard for environmental stewardship for all of our operations. We value working and consulting with the community to put the protection of the environment on the top of the priority list.
BURNCO sets such a high standard for environmental stewardship in all our operations to protect the environment so that we can continue to provide our products and services for generations to come. As with all of BURNCO's endeavors, we are committed to working with the community to address all your concerns. So if you need more information or if you just have questions, please don't hesitate to contact us.